So if you are an absolute beginner with astrology and you don't know the first thing about it, I'm here to help you. You've probably seen lots of funky little symbols. You might have read your horoscope in a magazine or a newspaper and sort of thought, it kind of sounds like it might apply to me, but not really. When you start to study astrology, you realize that there is so much to this. It's a science and it's something you could study your entire life and you still wouldn't get everything. So when people just diss it, it's probably because they've been reading their horoscopes and magazines and newspapers and just thought, how can that possibly apply to me? That's like, it's too generalist, right? And I get it. I can understand why horoscopes and give astrology a bad rap, because it's just a little bit too, it's nebulous and it doesn't really mean anything. So when you start to study astrology, you get your own natal chart, which is basically a map of where the planets were in the sky at the exact moment that you were born. In a minute, I'm going to pop up an example of a natal chart for you and talk you through some of the basics of a chart. Now, if you want to get your own chart and have a look at the placement of the planets for you, there's a fantastic online resource and it's free, and it's called AstroDensed or AstroDensed. I will put the link to that in below this video so that you can go there and have a bit of a look around. It's also a fantastic place to learn some basics and do lots of reading about various aspects of astrology. I think they've got free horoscopes there as well. So once you know where your rising sign is, by the way, it's a really good thing to read the horoscope for your rising sign, because that has a tendency to be a little more applicable than the scope for your sun. Anyway, I will jump over to the natal chart now and show you around.
Okay, so now I'm ready to show you a natal chart. So I'll just share my screen and get the mouse up so that you can see what we're looking at. I can point a few things out to you. So, what is this big circle? What does it represent? Well, basically, if you were floating around out in space and looking at the planet Earth, and sliced it through the middle, this would be the flat middle surface that you would get. So this line here from west to east represents the horizon. Anything down this bottom hemisphere of the chart represents things that are below the horizon. Anything up in this top hemisphere of the chart represents things that are above the horizon. Now, I made this chart a few moments ago now. So this would be the chart for a person born in Adelaide, Australia. You can see down here the location, and that's the longitude and the latitude there. On this date, at this time of the afternoon. Now, the time that a person is born is actually quite important, because this circle is obviously 360 degrees, right? And for every 4 minutes that pass, this circle moves by 1 degree. So this line moves, these are all moving that way. I think they're moving that way. Maybe they're moving the other way. I get really confused with this kind of thing, as I'm a little bit sort of geometrically challenged. But anyway, the line moves one way. Yeah, it's going to move that way, of course. So 4 minutes from this time, this ascendant will then be at like 17 degrees and 48 minutes of Gemini. So what are these funny shapes around the outside of the circle? These, as you may be aware already if you're into astrology, these represent the astrological signs. So you've got Aries up here, then Taurus, Gemini, etc. right the way around. They always follow in the same order. So that is something that doesn't change. The numbers represent the degree of the sign that each house cusp is on. The houses are these segments of the natal chart, and each of these denotes a different part of a person's life or personality. And each one of these is roughly 30 degrees. So you can see that Leo for this person, the second, third house cusp is at 27 degrees and 36 minutes of Leo. Similarly, with these little symbols, which denote the planets and points in a chart, they're each located at a different point, which is denoted by the degree and minute of the zodiac sign. So, for example, this person has their sun at 14 degrees and 52 minutes of Aquarius. So their sun sign is Aquarius, even though their rising sign is Gemini. So back to the concept of the rising sign here, the reason it's quite important to know a person's rising sign or your rising sign, if you know what time you were born, is that when an astrologer draws up a horoscope for a particular sign, they assume that they do it as if that sign is on the ascendant right here. So then depending on what sign is here, it depends where all these planets are going to fall, what houses they're going to fall in. And because the houses rule different aspects of a person's life, it means, for example, that this person with Gemini on the ascendant might have Mars right now in the 7th house, which means that there's going to be a lot of action and activity in this area of their life. The 7th house rules things like important relationships, can be business relationships, usually more like long-term marriage partnerships, that sort of thing. But somebody born with a different ascendant, for example, me, I have Sagittarius rising, and at the moment Mars is in my 12th house. It's just about here. So for me, Mars is in the 12th house, which is more about things like spirituality and intuition and that kind of thing. So an astrologer writing a horoscope for Gemini would be talking about activity related to Mars in their 7th house, whereas an astrologer writing a horoscope for Sagittarius might be writing about activity around things that pertain to the 12th house. So you can see that that's going to be very different, which is why when a lot of people read horoscopes for their sun sign, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to them, because they're not reading for where the activity really is for them. If you know your rising sign, it's great to start reading the horoscope for your rising sign. I read the horoscope for Sagittarius as my kind of main indicator of what's going on, and then I kind of support it a little bit with my sun sign horoscope, because it also does have meaning and reference, but it tends to be a bit more nebulous. So what else can I tell you? I've made some notes there. I just want to refer to them, make sure that I've covered all the basics. These little symbols here are glyphs, and they show their symbols for the planets. So the sun is fairly self-explanatory. Then you've got the moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. You're probably familiar with those. Over to the left here, there is a list. I think most horoscopes, if you go and get your horoscope drawn up, will have something similar with a list and the glyphs next to it, so you can see which little symbol denotes which planet. Right, now we go to these lines in the middle. What on earth do they mean? Okay, there's a lot going on here, isn't there? It gets very confusing, but it makes more sense. The more you get into it, then the more you study it, the more you learn, and this all becomes second nature, believe me. So each one of these lines denotes a geometric angle between different planets and points in the chart. So, for example, we've got Mars opposite the moon here, which is shown by this red line. Now, that is a 180-degree aspect, roughly, give or take. Now, astrologers usually allow an orb of aspect, which runs up to about 10 degrees at the most. So this is really only just in orb, this opposition. And it tends to mean that it has less of an effect than something that is more exact, an angle that is more exact. The blue line denotes a 120-degree angle or a trine. Green ones are 60 degrees. The other sort of lighter red ones, although they really look exactly the same to me here, are squares. They're 90 degrees. And there's lots of different aspects. I mean, there are some basic ones, but a lot of astrologers also drill down and use really smaller and smaller and weirder numbers like 72 and 45 and all sorts of strange aspects. But really, I think it's easiest, unless you're really getting into your astrological study, to just stick to the basic aspects. Now, each of these aspects are known as either hard or softer aspects. The opposition, for example, obviously you've got two planets sort of opposed to each other. They're kind of at loggerheads, and that can be quite challenging. So that would denote a challenging characteristic for this person. The trines, on the other hand, are known to be more sort of flowing and easier. The planets get along better with each other, and so they're easier to assimilate and sort of get along with. Different aspects, hard or soft, that is something that we can cover in a later tutorial. So, yeah, that is pretty much it for the natal chart for now. I think that's probably more than enough getting on with. If you're finding that you're a little bit stuck, by all means go back and watch this again, try and extract more of the information from it. And if you're really stuck, please pop a comment in the comments below, and I'll get back to you and give you more information or try and clarify some things. I would also remind you again about astro.com, which I think I referred to as AstroDanced in the earlier segment of this video. It's the same thing. It's a free resource as far as I can remember. I'm pretty sure that's still the case. I'll pop the link below as well. You can go and do your own natal chart there. Just pop all your birth details in and it'll send a chart to you or pop it up on the screen. And I think you can download it or PDF it or something. So that will give you an indication of your own rising sign and some of the aspects on your natal chart, so you can get into it and try and suss yourself out. I think it probably gives a lot of information about the different aspects as well. So yeah, read all that and see what you think. Does it make sense to you? Does it sound like that it's got you sort of sorted, you know, that it knows what you're all about? It's really fascinating. I just love astrology. It's an amazing science. Okay, I have rambled on for more than long enough. I could go on for hours and hours and hours about this stuff. I'm really passionate about it, but I'll leave it there for today. If you're interested in learning more, please do subscribe. I'll have more videos coming along, including videos about some of my favorite astrologers out there in Webland. There are so many, but some of them are really, really excellent. I highly recommend them, but I'll save that for another time. Okay, guys, thanks for sticking with me this far. I will see you again really soon. Bye.